Hello YouTube, I'm going to respond to this Thomas Nagy video because it's just bonkers, and I fear that people, young apprentices, young trainees, adult trainees will watch this and it's just it's just rubbish basically. It's unfounded rubbish, particularly the legal bit is something I disagree with. So if you want to fit cap in. If you don't want to fit cap in, great. I hate the concept that we should all do this because it's the best way, because there's more than one way to skin a cat in this trade, and if you come on a course with me, you'll find I say that a lot. So, for example, if it's dot and dab walls, why fit cap in? It's in a dry void. Yeah, it's not going to come into contact with any moisture. If you chop a single chase out, why make it wider to fit cap in? If you're doing a whole wall, maybe you'll fit cap in. Every job deserves to be judged individually, and I don't like videos that just sporadically tell everyone they've got to do something one way because it's the right way, because doing things the same way all the time in effect causes problems. So this video is called why we should we bother fitting cap in, and it's very much on the yes. So this legal bit has got to be seen, so let's just have a quick listen.
But the most important one is the legal perspective.
Let's have another go at that, shall we? Oh, this is refreshing now. Right then, let's have a look at this, shall we?
But the most important one is the legal perspective, and that...
The legal bit is the most important one, yeah? So if you're following the legal bit, you'll know you're working to the Electricity at Work regulations, where Rule 29 says if you took all reasonable, practicable things to stop an incident happening, you could pretty much not get done for it. So let's judge it by that rule.
That, my friends, is where that comes in, the Blue Book. So...
The Blue Book does not come in. It'd be the Electricity at Work regulations, but I get where you're saying. Fair one.
Let's say, for argument's sake, that, I don't know.
Right, you don't know already, but you're putting an argument across, so you probably should have worked that out beforehand, but let's see what you come up with it.
You've been in, you've rewired the house, you didn't bother fitting capping, you thought, you know what, balls to it, there's no need to do it, it's a complete waste of time, it's nonsense, right? Can't see it from my house, everything's plastered. What difference does it make? RCD doesn't trip. I put my stupid little plug checker in. I got 3 green lights. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, right?
Yeah, if that was the limitation of the testing you did, then you deserve to end up in court. But assuming you've done the installation properly to a reasonable standard and tested it correctly, let's see if the argument falls down after that assumption that I can obviously make.
No, because if something goes wrong...
If something goes wrong, go on then.
And that customer gets hurt. And it could be through any number of reasons.
Such as?
It could be fresh plaster and
fresh plaster,
fresh paint, and she could be wiping down the wall with a wet sponge to clean up a coffee stain or something.
So she's wiping down a wet plaster that's got wet paint on it with a wet sponge that's got coffee spilt on it. Yeah, this does not strike me as the most organised scheduling of a job if all that is still wet. But carry on.
Water soaks in. She's got...
I doubt any more water could soak in because there's enough water in this wall now to sink the Titanic.
A hand on the wall, she gets a belt, she's got a pacemaker, Dickie Hart, she pops her clogs, the old duffer.
If we assessed everything to this level of risk, no one would ever do anything, and I've still yet to notice our capping would have resolved this situation, but we'll see what goes off.
There's no point anyone saying it doesn't happen. Right,
I'll tell you now, yeah, that doesn't happen. That is the craziest selection of things I've seen since I last watched Brookside.
It's ridiculous, as that's completely unreasonable to assume that. It's not.
That is unreasonable to assume that. Totally unreasonable to assume that. The only thing lately I've seen that was totally unreasonable to assume other than this was that guy, electrician in the morgue, but we'll leave it there.
Everything's unreasonable until it goes and happens. All that is going to happen is if Betty pops her clogs, okay?
You said she had. She's already popped her clogs, but carry on.
Understandably, her family's not going to be very happy and they're going to want some answers. And you're just going to end up in a courtroom. That is all what happened.
If you did the job to the best of your ability and it was tested, erected and selected correctly, you probably won't end up in a courtroom because she's doddering round with wet plaster, wet paint, a wet sponge and a cup of spilt coffee. But let's see where it goes.
But once people go in there and investigate the reasons behind it, you will just end up in a courtroom.
So you're going to end up in a courtroom because they've investigated the reason behind it. I agree with that, yeah? But Betty died through various failings of ADS and RCDs. I failed to see how in that scenario, not fitting capping would have increased or decreased the potential result of the accident.
And This is where I have an issue now, because you will stand there in a dock and the barrister will just be standing there with his wig on, right, like they do, and they will just pull this book out and they will just start using it against you. And he'll just say, Mr. Nagy, I'm glad you turned up today.
They won't pull that book out. The first thing they'll pull out is your test sheets, I would imagine. But anyway.
You're familiar with this book, aren't you? The blue book? You know what this book is, right? Yeah? You've seen this book before? Excellent. I'm glad you know what this book is. Can you explain to me why you didn't comply with Regulation 133.3?
No one probably can do that. There's a couple of people that could tell you what that reg is, but not most people.
Now, there's only one answer you can give. What is that? Because
unless you're Paul Meanan, in which case you'd probably spit it out verbatim, but go on.
No one knows exactly what... very few people know. You just quote a reg number and somebody knows it off the top of their head. And we'll summarise it. Electrical equipment shall be selected so as to withstand safely the stresses of the environmental conditions and the characteristics of its location. Any items which do not by design have the properties corresponding to its location, further protection must be provided as part of the completed electrical installation.
Capping is not mechanical protection and doesn't really offer any protection to cable in a wall other than from the plasterer's trowel. Also, Twin and Earth is pretty much designed to be embedded directly into building materials as detailed on the reference methods chart in the same book you're holding.
So essentially, you need to give mechanical protection if you
Capping is not mechanical protection.
Feel it's necessary. There's another one, 134.1.1. Good workmanship and proper materials shall be used in the erection of electrical installation. The installation, this is the interesting bit, the installation of electrical equipment shall take account of manufacturer's instructions. There is one brand that I know of cable which does specify, if you look in its data sheet, the technical specs, it does say there that they basically push it all back on the contractor because there's so much.
So you've got to design it, basically, is what they're saying, which is what every cable manufacturer does. And if you were putting twin and earth cable in a dry void between dot and dab, why would you need to fit capping? It goes on and on like this. It's just bonkers. I've got to respond because it's crazy. It's someone's coming up with these crazy ideas and this concept of this imaginary thing of this woman getting electrocuted, and that's why we should all fit capping. You don't have to think like that. Some jobs, capping's going to be better. Some jobs, it's not going to be better, yeah? I hate the concept that people are forcing the idea that everything has to be done in a certain way because I say so in this. Every job should be assessed individually on the construction, its selection and erection, not blanketed with stuff like this. And this is just the kind of rubbish on YouTube, yeah, that goes out, that confuses people new to the trade, apprentices, adult learners and stuff like that. If you're going to put a point across, you've got to do it BBC. You've got to put a point across for why and why not. And every time in this game, there's always going to be reasons why it's a good idea and it's a bad idea. And this video is just this one and the Ring Main one, which I've not watched yet, but I can tell by the title, I just think they're grabbing likes and views. And if we're going to produce content, then we should probably make sure it's got opinion so we don't sway people into you must fit capping and anyone that doesn't fit capping is shit. Anyway, that's my bit. I had to respond. If you've made it this far, well done. I can't watch the rest of this video. I'm going to go cry into the toilet. Cheers. Bye.